Hiya, and welcome to Sonic Character Chaos, the show where Tails never fails, and where we look way too deep into our favourite Sonic characters' designs, personality, and themes to find cool stories, facts, and morals we can take from the character that no one at Sonic Team probably ever intended. For our second episode, let's talk about Sonic's most trusted friend and sort of little brother figure, Miles Tails Prower. Sega were making Sonic 2, as they tend to do when Sonic 1 is successful, and they needed something new to shake the formula up. Well, Mario has Luigi, why don't we give Sonic his own Luigi? But who could fill this role? Who could be Sonic's Luigi? His player 2? They had to think hard about the character design on this one. And so they said screw it and gave us a two-tailed fox. Design-wise, Tails is simple. He's a bright orange fox, like an actual fox. But later games would make him more yellow in colour. I guess it's to make the primary trio of Team Sonic fit all the primary colours, but that's neither here nor there. As I've just mentioned, colour-wise, Tails is bright orange/yellow, which tends to represent happiness and even creativity, which of course lends itself well to Tails' whole inventing shtick. His eye colour is blue, which I think is meant to represent the sky, Tails quite literally being able to fly, and also his metaphorical wish to fly higher. In terms of shape language, Tails is the inverse of Sonic. He's very circular, meaning of course he is quite literally shaped like a friend. But of course he has a few triangles on him to show he's got some sharpness to hold his own. Tails' backstory is fairly simple. A young fox bullied by others of his kind for his two tails. He was then one day rescued from the bullies by Sonic, who then quickly sped off. Tails gave chase, eventually figuring to use his two tails to propel himself to keep up with Sonic. Sonic, being impressed by this, let him tag along, and thus began a beautiful friendship. Tails is a cute little guy who's easy to root for, and is a very good younger brother figure to Sonic. And you could even quite literally plug in a second controller and have your little brother play Tails. If you had a little brother. But the ability to fly isn't the one thing that makes Tails unique. Tails is also a boy genius and a great mechanic. And while this wasn't so much his deal in earlier games, as the games went on they slowly started to push the idea of Tails being something of a tech wizard. But I think most Tails fans agree when Tails truly came into his own was in Sonic Adventure. You see, unlike Luigi, where Nintendo were happy to just make jokes at his expense about him being in Mario's shadow,
Luigi's Mansion, never heard of it.
Tails had a simple but effective story about stepping out from his hero's shadow to become a hero in his own right. Tails at the start of SA1 kinda screws up a lot. He's crashing his plane a lot and getting freaked out whenever Eggman shows up. Eventually, Tails gets separated from Sonic and is forced to fend for himself for a while. I should also probably address the fight with Chaos 4, how Tails fights Chaos 4 at some point in this story. It's unclear if Tails was the one to canonically fight Chaos 4, because Sonic and Knuckles also fight Chaos 4 in their stories. But let's say for the sake of argument he did, then yeah, I suppose we could add this onto the list of Tails' feats in his story as well, which is all well and good. I don't think he needs to fight Chaos 4 for his story to work, but if you disagree, be sure to tell me why you think so in the comments. In this time, he works on finishing his upgrades to the Tornado, and meets back up with Sonic to siege the Egg Carrier together. After which they then get split back up, and Sonic, looking further into Chaos, goes to explore the Lost World. And then with this happening, he doesn't realize that Eggman just decided to bomb Station Square. With Tails being the only one left as Sonic is lost in the ruins, he has to step up and defuse the bomb himself. But of course, Eggman isn't just gonna let that slide. He attacks the city in his new mech, the Egg Walker, and Tails, terrified, swallows his fear and stands up to stop him. After which, Tails is cheered on by the people of Station Square. It's a fairly simple story about growing independent, but it works quite well, I think. But now we move on to Sonic Adventure 2. Some people have accused Sonic Adventure 2 of repeating Tails' character arc from SA1, but I'd argue that SA2 is more so the stress test than it is a repeat. My first major point in this is that Tails starts SA2 going to break Sonic out of jail, and when he gets there he runs into Eggman and with no hesitation and no fear, fights him head on. What a little badass. He then tears through a maximum security prison to boss Sonic out. Tails at the start of SA2 is far from afraid. In fact, he's probably the coolest he's ever been. Tails throughout SA2 proves himself a valuable asset to the team with the fake Chaos Emerald plan, as well as just generally getting them out of a lot of situations. But right at the moment of truth, he slips up.
You thought you could trick me with that fake emerald, didn't you?
So, how did you know it wasn't the real one?
Tails! Because you just told me, Fox Boy.
Of course, Eggman already knew that Emerald was fake, but tricked Tails into believing that he spilled the beans, believing that that would break his spirit. But even with that, Tails gets ready to fight, and decides to finish the job, stopping Eggman himself. Tails in these two games goes through an arc in 2 parts, and it's awesome to see him grow like this. But even in the classic games, we got a lot of Tails proving himself. For instance, let's look at the bad ending of Sonic 2, and I know it's the bad ending and therefore probably not canon, but I think it's still a cool little scene. Tails in the ending of Sonic 2 watches the Death Egg explode, and his immediate knee-jerk reaction is to run to the tornado to go rescue Sonic. And in the bad ending, if Tails didn't do this, Sonic would be kinda screwed. So, isn't it great that Tails swoops in to save him? Of course, in the good ending, Sonic can just save himself because he's in his super form anyway, but this is actually why I kinda prefer the bad ending of Sonic 2. It's a cool friendship moment, and I think it does great of establishing these two as friends from here on out. There are also times in Sonic 06 where Sonic actively relies on Tails, such as when Sonic's stuck riding on the Orca and he needs Tails to go close the gate for him. My point being, after the adventure games, Sonic relies on Tails a lot more. And of course, there's his iconic theme song, Believe in Myself. It's of course about how Tails wants to be trusted and also wants to be like him, and that he needs to fly high. Of course, be like him obviously means Sonic. I don't think there's any way we could really look at that in any other way. Of course he wants to be trusted because he's trying to be independent, and of course fly higher is metaphorical. He wants to fly higher so everyone can see him and he can reach the highest of the heavens, you know? And that's all well and good, and I quite like this theme song a lot. Well, I prefer the SA1 version, but the SA2 version's not bad. He hasn't really gotten any new theme songs since then, but I think this one captures the vibe of his character just fine. So, in the end, Tails tells us that it's okay to have your heroes, your idols, whether that be friends, family, or celebrities. But you can't just parrot them. One day, you gotta step out on your own, be yourself. And to do that, you have to believe in yourself. And that is Miles Tails Prower, young hero, and a true inspiration for player 2s everywhere.